Hi, everyone. Welcome to the channel. It's Sebastien Boyer, the approved guy. And we have a special treat today. Mr. Daniel Ronberg is visiting us once again, as a special guest with his new book, Buy Back Your Life. It is on Amazon. You can buy it today. We're going to be diving into the book and we're going to be talking about finance and retirement. So get your notepad and a pen and get ready for some great information. And without further ado, let's get right to it. Hey, Danny, how are you, buddy?
Hey, good, man. Great to be here with you again. Thanks for having me.
Oh man, thank you for joining me. I appreciate you taking the time and coming to
Absolutely.
share yourself, your knowledge, wisdom, and your new book. So let's
Yeah.
just get right into it. So, what's the title of the book? It's
Buy back your life, how to stop worrying about money and start living in retirement. And so the reason for the book, Sebastian, this is what I was sharing with you in the beginning, was had the privilege of working with people, helping them retire for 13 years. I've met with, I don't know, I don't keep track of this, but probably thousands of families at this point. I run a lot of meetings every week. And I noticed that when someone goes to retire, it's very common that they can slip from their identity and maybe the abundance mindset and maybe the level they were comfortable being into a place of scarcity, because it's a big shift. And sometimes that's a very tough transition for people to make. And when they retire, sometimes they lose their identity. They lose that feeling of abundance. They lose that feeling of security with a paycheck coming in or some consistent cash flow, and now they make decisions differently and they show up differently. And so the purpose of the book is to help people buy back time and experience and enjoy the life that they've been waiting to create. And really, what I found is we're very good typically at turning our time into dollars, and we're not so good at turning those dollars back into life experience. And so this book is really meant to be like an exercise for people to put themselves through, to challenge their paradigms and to say, okay, one, where am I showing up as my lesser self? And what could I be doing to be maybe a more cheerful giver or some be enjoying my time a little bit more. But then it goes into a specific process that we've used successfully for over a decade to help people put their tools in the right place so that they can arrive at the abundance mindset. And there is a process for that, and it goes through that in detail in the book.
so who is this book for? Is it going to be for a young person just getting out of starting their life, starting their journey, 21 years old, 24, or is it for somebody who's ready to retire? Who's it for?
Retirement to me, it could be for both. I would say really for somebody who's in that kind of pre-retirement or already retired range. So this might be somebody who's 10 years out from retirement or 10 years into retirement. It could even be somebody who's been in a retirement for longer. But the reason why I say it could be for both is I talk about the two different phases of retirement. There's pre-retirement,
Mhm.
and there's different things you're thinking about and challenges and priorities during that season. And then there's retirement, which again comes with different challenges and priorities and things you're focused on. And so what I think the reason why I think it could be beneficial for somebody younger is obviously they're not going to be thinking about retirement. They're thinking about building wealth, getting to a point where that could even be a possibility, making more money, paying bills. That's a different season of life. However, the intentionality that I describe in this book and the mindset that I describe in this book is really applicable to anybody. And if they start with the end in mind, like Stephen Covey always says, I think that might be helpful for them to build a lifestyle that they want, or like Garrett Gunderson always says, the life that you don't want to retire from.
Hmm.
Part of it is you can buy back your time along the way, because a lot of us will save all that till retirement. And then sometimes tragically, whether it's health or just financial circumstances or family members' need or something, we don't fully experience and embrace that when that was the intention all along. So I think for a younger person, it could show them how to have these kind of mini retirements along the way. So that way they're enjoying and experiencing life and not just prolonging it all to the end, where it becomes harder to give yourself permission to then give yourself the ability to buy and spend money like you haven't ever done before.
I understand. So, without giving away all the meat and potatoes that's in the book, because we want you guys to get the book and you can get it on Amazon right now, correct?
You can. Yeah, I have a special offer. I put it at 99 cents for the ebook. So you can get the paperback on Amazon. And then obviously, Sebastian, anybody that's your clients or your audience, if they want a copy, they can reach out and we'll just send them a copy. But if they want to download one like today,
Hmm.
you can get it for 99 cents on Amazon.
Awesome, amazing. So, without giving away all the juicy details, could you tell us a
Sure.
little bit about the process, maybe the first two steps
Yeah.
and what that looks like?
Yeah, and I will give it away. That's the point, is I want to share it with everybody. And if I can help anybody, like I'm not a big reader. I'm an Audible guy, which I do have it on Audible. So I like to listen to all my books. But if you're somebody who just likes to watch videos, yeah, this would be a great way to give you most of the content. So there's really no secret behind our process or anything that's proprietary. We just use Tom Hegna's process. And Tom created this process almost 2 decades ago now. And it's just a really simple way to help people, to give them a framework to understand what they need for their retirement, and not only what they need financially, but how they can show up in a more powerful way mentally, emotionally, psychologically. There's a lot of things that are tied to the decisions you make with your money, and those are going to have an impact on the rest of your life and how you interact with people. And so, like, my personal mission is to help people realize their purpose in retirement. And that can sound grand. Oh, how do I discover my purpose? It's not really having some giant mission statement or lifelong goal. It's really more about how do you show up in the abundance mindset so that when opportunities present themselves in your retirement, like helping a grandkid with college or traveling and doing a mission trip or just enjoying an experience with your spouse to the fullest degree, you can be present and give yourself permission to do that. And this process that Tom has created not only makes sure that you're going to be guaranteed to have a successful retirement outcome financially, but it also lets people, once they fully realize the impact of it, Sebastien,
Mhm.
they do enter the abundance mindset because they know with certainty, hey, I'm going to have enough to be retired no matter what comes up. So that liberates some of my other assets to be spent on the fun things or the charitable things that I want to do. And so the process is simple. There's 2 steps, and I keep everything super, super simple in all my content in my books. But Tom's process it's really simple. The step one is you have to have enough guaranteed lifetime income to retire and stay retired. And that's important for several reasons. Number one, we don't know how long anyone's going to live. Number two, it is mathematically impossible to optimize the perfect withdrawal strategy from a diversified portfolio over the indefinite period of a human life. In other words, if you've saved up retirement assets in an IRA or 401k, if we don't know how long you're going to live, we can't figure out an equation to perfectly optimize that. But guaranteed lifetime income doesn't care how long you're going to live. It's going to pay you a high amount of cash flow that's not correlated to the market year after year. This is what Tom teaches us. And if you look at the history of the United States over the last almost really 125 years, retirement used to be solved. We have proof that guaranteed lifetime income is the optimal way to retire. So when you used to work in America, you'd go to work for a corporation, you would get a pension, and you would have an income for you and your spouse for as long as you lived, and there was nothing to worry about. There was no retirement planning. My job didn't exist. Then in the late 80s, early 90s, we switched to the 401k. So we went from what's called a defined benefit to a defined contribution type of planning. And we shifted the responsibility of all the savings and investment choices and distribution choices onto the retirement saver. You fast forward to today and look what happens. So the average 401k balance is like 197,000. Most people can't retire. There's this retirement crisis. They call it the baby boomer dilemma, the 2030 issue, whatever you want to name it. The fact is that now we're seeing that without giving people that defined benefit, the defined contribution is not supporting the average retiree. 50% of America arrives to retirement and death with less than $25,000. That's a problem. We have proof that it worked before. That's why guaranteed lifetime income is so important. And there's only 3 pillars of guaranteed lifetime income. It's Social Security, pensions, and in some form of an annuity. Those are the only 3 that can provide that guaranteed lifetime income. And I'm a real estate investor. People will often say, what about my rental income? Or what if I have a bond that pays an interest rate or a CD? Those are all sources of potential income. But again, you can have vacancies, something can happen to the property, interest rates can rise or fall. So those aren't guaranteed sources of income. They're potentially supplemental sources of income, but not optimal for making sure that you have that lifetime guarantee that you can't outlive and spend. And that's what gives people that comfort, right? That's what returns them to the abundance mindset. It's easy to be abundant when you're working and making big money and money's flowing, or you're in your highest earning years. But when you shift to relying completely on portfolio withdrawals, having that guaranteed income is what gives people the certainty to go, you know what, I can spend this every month because it's coming the next month and the next month and the next month, and that's not going to change. That gives them that security. So that's step one. We have to arrive at that.
Okay.
Step two is if you can arrive at that level of income to meet all of your basic need and expenses and all the fun things you want to do, right? Tom wrote a brilliant book called Paychecks and Playchecks, which essentially describes, let's cover all your basic need for lifestyle expenses with guaranteed lifetime income. Let's cover all the things that you want to do for retirement as well with guaranteed lifetime income. And then if we arrive at that, and we can, then all we do is remove the key risks that could mess up that income. And they're the same for everybody. What if taxes go up? What if we have inflation? What if the market crashes? What if interest rates rise or fall? What if you have long-term care? There's sequence risk, and then there's also the economic impact of losing your spouse. And sequence risk has to do with the timing of your returns and the timing of your withdrawals from your portfolio. But if you can remove those essentially 8 key risks around that retirement income, the probability of portfolio failure goes to zero, because risk is just the probability that if something can go wrong or something can go wrong. And Murphy's Law has taught us, and I talk about this in the book, that if it can go wrong, it's probably going to go wrong. If you can just remove those risks and you have enough guaranteed lifetime income, it's very difficult to mess that up. You have a really high probability of making sure your retirement is going to be successful. And you've built an intentional bucket for each thing that could go wrong. And again, once you complete that process and people really embrace and understand what they have, it is the key to freeing themselves up to now give a little bit more, enjoy a little bit more, and relax a little bit more in their retirement.
Amazing. So it definitely sounds like someone should be reading your book and starting to put these ideas, these concepts into play, not when they're ready to retire, but well in advance. They should have at least 10, 15, 20 years before they're ready to retire, because there takes some planning and some preparation and some asset allocation, I'm assuming, to make it all work. Is that a
Yeah,
true statement?
that's a good question. I think obviously the earlier you start, the better, because it just gives you more time to be aware of these things and prepare. I never want anyone to hear my message and become discouraged. Wait, how am I going to have a plan for long term care? How am I going to have a plan for taxes? I only have a house. What am I going to do? It actually can be a lot simpler than you think. And that's what the beauty of Tom's process is. I'll meet people who are already in retirement or they're right about to retire. And there is a lot you can do. So, where it gets really fun is when we can get specific into some of the strategies and products you can put in place to eliminate some of these risks, because there are phenomenal tools to remove risk, such as annuities, life insurance, hybrid long-term care policies, all kinds of different things now that you can really remove a lot of these key risks, transfer them away from your portfolio to an insurance company, and effectively be able to check that box off for pennies on the dollar. Being able to use that leverage of a large company that is built to remove risk
Yeah.
off of you as the individual is a phenomenal way to structure that. And there's all kinds of amazing ways to do that. I think we're going to talk about a few of those today.
I wanted to ask you about a few other tools or products,
Sure.
namely the GUL, Guaranteed
Mhm.
Universal Life, as well as Roth IRAs. And I know you
Yep.
actually updated me that there's some, because of the new laws that just took place, there's some changes to the backdoor Roth IRA. So I'll
Yeah.
just let you run with that.
Yeah.
How can these tools also be included? When, who, and why?
Yeah. So one thing that is a big part of my focus in creating content is helping people who aren't in the financial space have a framework to know when to apply these tools the right way. Right? We mentioned the who, the when, the why, the how. How do you do this? Right? Because you hear about all these different tools, it can be overwhelming. That's why this process in the book is so important. Not to come back to the book, but like when you follow Tom's process, the process shows you where your deficiencies are and where you need to implement these strategies. For example, let's take the first one. How do you know when to use an annuity? Let's say you have Social Security, and let's say you and your spouse are going to get about 3,000 a month. But let's say your monthly need for basic expenses is 4,000 a month, and you don't have a pension. Guess what? That's where the annuity goes to cover that $1,000 a month, your shortfall. That's where you use lifetime income. Now, if you said, hey, we still want to travel and do stuff, we need another 1,000 a month. Great. That's where the second annuity goes. And now you have 5,000 a month to meet your basic need and expenses, all your fun budget, the things you want to do in retirement. And that's covered with guaranteed lifetime income, so you can't outlive it no matter what. So that's where you can use an index annuity with a lifetime income rider, similar to the way you would have your pension fill that remaining bucket. But if you don't have a pension, you can do a rollover of your retirement assets into an annuity to cover that stream of income, and then you're good, right? So that's basic step one, where you can use an index annuity. When you're talking about whole life insurance, what's cool about whole life is it can really solve a lot of those different risks. For example, we talked about the economic impact of losing your spouse. If one of those spouses passes away in our example, your social security number is going to change. Now, again, we're making an assumption that the income is set up as a joint lifetime income, so it won't change for the spouses for the annuities. But just looking at the social security, the higher social security will be the surviving spouse's benefit or the widow's benefit. So that means that the lower social security is going to go away. So that means you're going to have a reduction in lifestyle. That's the economic risk of losing your spouse. You're going to have a lower income and you're going to be in a higher tax bracket as a single filer. Whole life insurance has a death benefit that's permanent and guaranteed. And so that can replace the amount of money you could use to then create income to fill that gap. So it can remove the economic risk of losing your spouse. We talked about what if taxes go up, right? If all of your wealth is concentrated in pre-tax assets, IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, all the traditional tax deferred assets, and taxes go up, there's really not a lot you and I can do. We could try to help them meet a CPA or tax attorney to create some tax deductions and maybe offset some income. But for the average person who's not looking to take on that level of administrative expense or work, that's not really going to be very practical. So being proactive, using a form of whole life insurance to store cash value to be able to use in retirement, or a Roth IRA could be a phenomenal way to have some tax diversification so that you're not all in the pre-tax bucket for your retirement income. And this isn't tax advice. It's just like basic, simple, let's look at mapping out your income for retirement. If we know we haven't dealt with tax risk, it's probably wise to be proactive and figure out the right way to do that. So again, going back to Tom's process, removing that risk. Now, if you want to get really tactical with it, or I would say not tactical, but really more personal, a lot of people go, should I convert to Roth or should I buy life insurance? And let's say that they're like 62 years old and they're making the most money they've ever made from a W-2 wage. No, that's probably not a good time to be doing that Roth or whole life necessarily, because you're going to pay really high taxes on that. Now, if you already have after tax money you can do that with, that's a different story. But if you're talking about, should I be diverting contributions from my retirement account over to these other accounts, and you're in your highest earning years, that may not be as good. What may be more beneficial is to say, okay, once you retire, now you're on Social Security, and the big beautiful bill just changed the taxation of that. So this is even better. But now that you're on Social Security, that's not taxed the same as wages. That may be a more optimal time to deploy some funds into life insurance or into Roth IRAs, because you'll pay less tax on those dollars to get them in there. And so again, it totally just depends on everybody's circumstances, right? Everybody's unique. But again, you really just want to use common sense and look at, okay, is the Roth going to make sense for me to pay tax at this high rate to then have it tax free? Or is there a more optimal time to use the Roth IRA? And so those are like some key distinctions. If you look at those risks that you have, whole life insurance with chronic illness riders can help with the long-term care risk. Obviously, that's not long-term care insurance, but they can help if you were to become chronically ill or terminally ill or disabled. So whole life can really remove a lot of those risks for you and be really helpful. And so that would be where I would try to look at those products. You mentioned GUL. GUL is special, and I'll tell you why. When interest rates went up, it gave us a unique opportunity to use GUL in a really meaningful way. Obviously, it can help if your spouse dies. Obviously, it has riders for chronic and critical illness and terminal illness, so it can help with care events. But where I really like GUL, and I think I've been using a lot of it, and I think this is going to be an impactful way for people to think about GUL, is, and I got to be careful how I say this because it's a framework to use to think about GUL in, but GUL is you pay the premium and it's guaranteed to a certain age. There's no performance. Generally, there's no cash value. It's boom, you pay this premium, you get this death benefit. And that's really helpful for death benefit to structure for retirees or for estate planning or things like that. So that's really its main use. But where I like to use GUL is in conjunction with an annuity. And if you have some time on your side, let's say you're in your 50s and you're not going to retire let's say you're 55 and you're not going to retire until 65, you can do some really powerful things with a GUL and an annuity. So for example, you can structure a GUL as a life pay for a relatively small premium, and that death benefit can replace the total amount of money that you could put into an annuity. So let me give you an example. Let's say you have $500,000, Sebastian. And let's say we say, okay, we want to put a portion of that 500,000 into a GUL, and that's going to support a premium and a death benefit for $500,000. So it's going to replace the 500,000. Now we can take the rest of that money, let's call it 350, and put it into an index annuity that can roll up for 10 years. What you'll find is that annuity payment will probably be somewhere in the range of 10 to 12% of your original $500,000 you had to work with. So that means you're going to get a $50,000 or $60,000 payment every year for the rest of your life. And then when you die, the whole $500,000 will be replaced for your family. So everybody wants to get a really good rate of return. They want safety. They want to keep the principal intact, right? That's like the perfect thing that people describe, like something to put your money into, an investment or an account. And again, this isn't a rate of return, but when you use the two products together, it creates a very powerful way to do that in a substitution, another way. For example, if I said, okay, when I retire, I want to pull as much money out of this thing as I can, but I want to leave the whole thing for my kids. If you put those two products together, you will get a high income distribution from the annuity. And yes, the annuity will use up all your money, but the life insurance will replace all that for your family, tax free. So
Yeah,
that's a really cool way to use GULs and annuities together to create a really impactful, meaningful strategy for retirement.
that's awesome. That's really good stuff right there.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So with that said, when you're working with clients, you're taking them through the process first, helping them to
Yeah.
really have the mindset shift, really see clearly where they are and what these different tools and options are.
Yeah.
And it's not one size fits all, right? It's everyone's unique and different. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're
The same. The process is the same, but everybody's situation is so unique and different.
right.
We use the process as a framework to operate through to make sure they're going to have security, but the outcome.
It's always different. Amazing. Awesome. So again, guys, if you want to get the book and get in touch with Danny, we'll put a link in the description below on this video, so
Yeah.
you can get to the Amazon and to his YouTube channel. And Danny, I know you've been doing some speaking. You have anything coming up that you're going to be speaking at?
I just had the privilege of speaking at the Life Insurance Summit. That's Caleb Williams' big event that he does every year. That's a killer event. I highly recommend people go to that. It's one of my favorites. I'm going to be attending the Life 180 event in Scottsdale here in August. I don't think I'm speaking at it. Chris has hinted at it a couple of times with me, but we haven't actually nailed anything down yet. I'm hoping I can just go and enjoy that one as a participant and spectator. I get to see you speak there, which I'm really excited about. But no, my focus really is actually, I'm trying to move away from a lot of that. I do it as a favor when someone asks me, but my focus is with my clients. So I'm really in the field. I run 20 to 25 meetings a week. And just so anybody knows out there, our process and where our heart is, like we consider a successful meeting with somebody if we've provided some form of value in their life and given them something they didn't have from before, not if they become a client. So we're relationship driven on everything, not transactional. So our process is designed to meet with somebody 3, 4, 5 times before we ever even talk about products. And that's done so that we can really get to know people and understand their needs and help serve them and meet them where they're at. And so there's a lot of people we meet with that we aren't exactly the right fit to help, but maybe we identify other options or relationships, right? Maybe Sebastien, you have a tool that can help them, or someone else that we would bring in through our strategic network. And if we've given them that idea or unlocked something for them in the process, that's a win for us. That's really how we approach service. I mean, that's really where my heart is and where my focus is going to be, not only the rest of this year, but really going into the next few years, is I'm going to be really trying to spend all my time with people individually rather than speaking. So that's why I wrote the book, so I could have an extension of myself and share my message with people in a way that's maybe a little bit more leveraged, where
Yeah.
I don't have to talk to every single person every time to get this message across.
Yep.
But where it comes into practice is, yeah, me and my team are going to be really focused on just serving individuals on a regular basis.
Awesome. Amazing. All right, Danny, thank you so much, man. This was great. A lot of great information here, and I can't wait to get my copy. I know it's on the way. I think I'm going to go ahead and just get that digital one in the meantime, because you said there's an audio one too. Yeah, because I like to listen to stuff while I'm doing stuff. So
yeah, we got it on Audible right now. What's cool is, I don't know if do you know Pete Foldis?
I do.
Yeah, cool guy, really cool guy. We've become close friends over the last few years, and he's coming out to the Life 180 event in Scottsdale. And him and I are actually at night going to re-record the audio. He's actually going to read it, and we're going to do like a podcast style where I break down each chapter and the content as we go through it.
Cool.
So the Audible right now is read by an actor, because I'm a slow reader and you don't want to hear me read out loud. But Pete's going to read my book, and we're going to do like this whole thing. So yeah, when that comes out, I'll make sure to get that over to you. So if anybody wants that new Audible copy, they can get that.
That's cool. Yeah, Pete has that real New York accent. He's gonna make it.
He's got the New York. Yeah, I love it.
Bring a little toughness to it.
Yeah, bring a little street cred to my book.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome, man. All right, thank you again, bro. I look forward to seeing you in Arizona and just chopping up and doing some work together. In the meantime, hang tight. Let me just say goodbye to everybody.
Okay.
All right, everyone. Thank you for watching. I do hope that this interview was of value to you. If it was, make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Make sure you check out Danny's YouTube channel. Grab a copy of the book. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share his content as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you let someone know who will let someone know about this channel and the work we're doing. Love you. God bless you. Take great care. See you next time.